So when Balthazar took Christian out for his first hunt, and this is one of my favorite chapters, which when I was writing it, I was like, how is this going to go? What's he going to do? How is this going to be? Because as we've seen, feeding has really led to sex and intimacy. But now they're going to go feed on somebody that's not in their group because they have to, because Damon's literally drained everyone at House Ravenscroft and then some. So Balthazar asked Christian what kind of prey he wants to hunt. And he explains that he means like what kind of human they go after. The people that attract them, like somebody that turns you on that you think is beautiful or interesting, or a villain that you want to stop. And unsurprisingly, I think for Christian, he chooses a villain, but that is actually, I think, a more fraught decision because as we know, feeding for vampires is either sex or violence. And Christian wants, I think, to get away from the intimacy, but then he's reaching for an almost form of violence that I don't believe he's comfortable with either. And it's a very big moral choice about what they make. So you guys, what type of human prey would you choose for your first, I would say, well, your first hunt? Or, not hero, but person you're attracted to or a person you think needs to go? Maybe needs to go, or you don't mind scaring.
I was going to say, like, with the attractiveness, I was just going to say Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, nice. Yeah, she is gorgeous. So you think you go for who you're attracted to. And by the way, with the Iros power, you could have Jennifer Aniston.
With other bloodline powers, he could be Jennifer Aniston.
He could be if he was Mirror. Okay, Adam, are you going to go after somebody who turns you on or turns you off?
No, I thought about this.
Exactly. Jennifer is going to be drained.
Yeah, I'll be next in line.
This is not good.
This question set me on a journey. I had to type it out because I was so perplexed. I think, like, in a perfect world, you'd find acolytes, right? You'd find people who are willing participants in this, who are seduced by the idea of vampires. But other than that, I think the only solution is villains, right? It makes a lot of sense, but it brings up so many questions about morality. This is where I went on a journey. And who decides what behavior is villainous or not, right? Villainy is not a objective fact. Going after villains feels like a little bit of a way to justify their nature, their inherent bloodlust, right? It also puts a lot of pressure on the accuracy of their mind reading and brings up a lot of questions about capital punishment and the capacity of people to reform or change. And would scaring them be enough to set them on a different path? Or, I think I went too in depth on this question. So Jennifer Aniston.
No, this is good because if you think about it, and Iros not only can control someone's mind and wipe their minds, but they can actually make them different, can't they? They can actually change that person. So what happens when you have a choice to be made? You're like, oh, well, I could although that's a violation too, isn't it? If you're really changing them, making them do
right. But and also the amount of pressure to have to have that discussion with yourself for every meal would be a lot.
That's why acolytes are so handy, right?
I can't imagine that. That's like a once in a lifetime moral dilemma. But I think villains, it has to be the way to go for me.
One of the reasons that I thought of having acolytes in the story was I realized how exhausting it would be. Each and every time you'd have to either go hunt, go into a bar, pick someone up, find them in a dark alleyway, head into a prison, what are you going to do? Stop someone in the act of doing a violent act. And that would be exhausting. That kind of moral questioning each and every time. Plus you're being pulled and pushed by hunger and their predatory nature, because vampires are predators. That's part of them, and they can lose control.
Well,
of
and
that.
also once if at any point the world found out about vampires and it became general knowledge, that would be its own kind of like I don't know what the word is. People, word would get out that vampires were exacting their own punishment on who they deemed evil.
Exactly. As we'll find out, if you reveal the existence of vampires, that's what you're hunted. You're taken out by the vampires themselves. So that's also problematic. You better not lose control. That makes every meal, every night fraught with difficulty. Okay, Jay, villain or Jennifer Aniston?
I would go to a terminal blood disease support group and advertise my ability to grant longevity for the price of a little snifter of the red stuff.
Of the red stuff.
Yeah.
There is going to be a question, because you can tell vampires have obviously a greater sense of smell, and they can see when someone's sick. And if you know someone's going to die, what do you offer them? Do you offer them, immortality? Or do you just see them as, sort of like the sick prey at the edge of the group that maybe you can just take down and end quickly?
That's a good question. I think I'd try to offer them immortality at first, but failing that, I guess I'd just go to some sort of hematolagnia sex party and assume that everyone there enjoys the letting of blood, and just see if I can get away with sneaking around and getting everyone's blood.
You could definitely, when you think about the people who play vampires themselves in everyday life, you could actually get away with a lot now without them realizing who you were, what you really
just
were.
say I'm a method actor and get away with it that way.
Absolutely. Okay, Edward, what would you do? Victim, Jennifer Aniston, or other?
I wouldn't put anything in my mouth that didn't consent to it.
Okay, excellent. So I could see that.
For me,
you wouldn't have to.
Oh no, I would totally murder horribly and brutally and terribly everyone who deserved it, in my point of view. But I think there's this question for me really brought up this idea of, if you have the power to save someone's life and it costs you nothing but donating blood, at a blood clinic, and you don't do it, then you are also responsible for another form of harm, which is what I'm interested in. These vampires who have the ability to solve so many of the world's ills, but they don't act. Are they any better than these villains? Because to me, even that name, it's a Latin thing, isn't it? It just meant the villagers, the villains.
Yeah.
Villainous.
Yeah.
So again, I'm better than you. I'm above you, looking down on you, and I can choose who lives and who dies. If I was a vampire, I would probably seek out willing partners who were excited about it and who themselves were amazing, incredible people who I wanted to continue their journey on a little further. Like Jay said, those who perhaps their own lives have been cut brutally short by nature or circumstance, but the awful, awful human beings, they might just fall downstairs repeatedly. I just might find time in my busy schedule to make that happen.
Balthazar was able to locate so easily somebody who was abusing someone else and could fix that. And that he could literally spend his time doing nothing else. It was interesting because it meant that he's closing off all those people calling for help.
Exactly.
Going back,
he could have gone to those people and changed their minds.
Yeah, because Bruno spoke about Superman and comparing Superman to Damon. And I think where he listens to everyone calling out for him, and that's almost driving him mad, which is why he goes to his fortress of solitude a lot of the times. But here we have Balthazar, who's able to hear these calls all the time, and he must close them off. And he's just doing this to do what Christian wants. He's not going to save this woman for any other purpose. He would have left her to her fate otherwise. I hoped you liked this behind-the-scenes discussion with the cast and crew of the Everdark podcast. If you want to join the conversation, come to YouTube and tell us what you think in the comments. And just so you know, I'm not the only one reading the comments. The entire cast is too, and they're very eager and excited to hear from you. If you are already listening on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe to get notified when the next episode of Everdark comes out.